Planning Masterclass. I'm so excited to have you here. So in this masterclass, I'm going to be giving you great training on how to facilitate a functional unit workshop using our planning framework. Now, in order for you to get the most out of this training, it is really important that you play this video full screen. What's that going to do is shut down all the other tabs on your computer. To get the most out of it, you really need to pay attention. So try avoid checking your emails and your phone, Facebook, and Twitter. Just because this training is free, don't let that fool you. And this is a very, very powerful workshop providing essential and real services to the largest market, that is small and medium-sized businesses in the world that make real money. So let's get started. So in the partner portal, you will be presented with an opportunity to download the functional unit workshop training material. So just like all the material in GVC's partner portal, the functional unit workshop presentation is editable. So feel free to edit anything you wish, including trademarks, branding, as well as being specific to the organization that you are delivering or facilitating the functional unit workshop for. So when you get started, the first thing you're going to do is explain where functional unit planning sits in the strategic planning process. So what you would have already done is craft company objectives with the business owner, manager, or CEO, as well as craft strategic planning, strategic objectives. And now you are looking to craft functional unit actions. So these functional unit actions, they deliver the strategic objectives that ultimately delivers the company objectives. So there's some basic information that you can give to your audience. And in this case, all we're saying is some basic information around the individual actions or activities that support the delivery of business strategy or strategic objectives. This workshop is designed so that you can facilitate a session that will flush out details in the form of actions to deliver the business strategy. On the next slide, you will have an agenda for the day. The agenda is specifically designed so that the functional unit planning workshop can be facilitated over a single day. It is designed for you to start at 8 or 9 a.m., regardless of which part of the world you are in, and be completed around about 2 to 3 p.m. In most instances where there's good discussion occurring, feel free to go over the estimated or suggested time. So next I'm going to walk you through the individual items of the agenda. First and foremost, the important thing is to break the ice as well as facilitate a session that's going to enhance the team collaboration. And the best way to do that is the getting to know each other session. This session is designed to be facilitated or designed to be delivered over a 30-minute period, regardless of the team size. So to facilitate this session, get the team to split into pairs. Also enable them to choose or encourage them to choose somebody that they don't usually engage with. And in this session, you're basically asking them to spend 3 minutes by asking 3 questions to the person they are talking with. And 3 questions is, tell me something about yourself that you would like everyone else to know. How did you come about joining whatever the company is? And what is your deal breaker? After 3 minutes is up, basically get the team to swap sides, and the person that was asking the questions now gets an opportunity to get asked the questions. Once the 3 minutes is over, the next part of this session is to get each person to tell the rest of the team one thing about the person they just talked to. This is a fantastic way to share information and to let people know that there's things about their colleagues that they don't usually know. And this is a fantastic way to bring some collaboration and team spirit heading into the planning session. So the next session is also a brilliant session that we absolutely love when we are facilitating functional unit planning workshops. This is looking back the previous year and celebrating our successes. So in this session, you're going to split the teams up into a minimum of 2 and maximum of 6 people. Provide each of the teams with post-it notes or an A2 paper and a marker pen. Get the teams to draw a line across the paper horizontally, and then on the top half of the paper, get the scriber to write down what worked well in the previous year, and in the bottom half of the paper, write down what didn't work so well in the previous year. This is going to be an important starter to the planning session, because what didn't work well could well and truly become actions against your strategic objectives when you actually start developing functional unit actions. At the end of this session, each team should nominate one person to feedback at a high level the comments and discussion points written down on the A2 paper. After this session, you're going to go into a stakeholder power interest matrix. This is a powerful matrix that basically helps businesses and teams understand who their stakeholders are, and importantly, what type of power the stakeholders have in their functional unit or business unit, and what level of interest they have in the functional unit or process. So this framework is power and interest, where power could be ranging low to high, as well as interest ranging low to high. So depending on where a stakeholder is on this grid, this is an indication of how the stakeholder should be managed. So for example, if a finance team in the business is perceived by the functional unit to have high power, so they would be right up here, and their interest in the process or the functional unit might be high as well. That means that they are in this quadrant, meaning that they should be managed closely. And by managed closely, that could mean to the business having weekly meetings or daily meetings or writing reports and always keeping the finance team engaged. Now, importantly, what this matrix does is this matrix allows you to capture the perceived view, and then collectively as a team, you can recalibrate what the power interest should be. So an individual's view might be that the finance team has high power and high interest, and that individual might be managing the finance team really closely and spending a lot of company time managing a team with perceived power and perceived interest. But collectively as a team, that finance department could be moved to perhaps a keep informed, because their interest might be high. They're very interested in where you're spending the company money, but their power to influence you in the business might be pretty low. So that means you can keep them informed, and that may simply mean sending or copying them into the odd email or sending them a monthly update on where the functional unit is at. So the task for this exercise is, in the mini teams that was split up in the first session, write down as many internal and external stakeholders that each individual or teams engage with during normal operations. Example of other teams might be an operational team, finance team, external maybe politicians. In agreement with the mini team, so this is an opportunity for the individuals to discuss at a mini team level on the perceived power and interest and agree between them where on the grid they actually sit. So in this part here, the post-it notes for each of the stakeholders is pasted onto where the team has decided that functional unit or that stakeholder sits in this grid. So just a quick note for you that power equals the ability of the stakeholder to influence the direction of the functional unit, whereas interest equals the current level of engagement or involvement of the stakeholder in functional unit. So the next session is where the company owner, CEO, or business unit manager is invited to present the company objectives. So here, as a facilitator, you would have already been through the company objectives, which is the balance scorecard in strat plan, formulating the company objectives. So all you do is update this slide with the company's objectives under finance, process, customer, talent, and teamwork. And this is generally discussed or relayed to the team by the business owner, manager, or CEO. So as the facilitator, we don't encourage that you specifically talk around these objectives. However, if the business owner, manager, or CEO is not available and you're the only facilitator or person that's leading the planning session, then feel free to relay this information to the team. So you start off with talking about the company objectives, and exactly the same, insert all the strategic objectives that the company has selected. So this is directly out of strat plan. So this is just indication to show you or tell your audience that the company objectives have already been formulated and the strategic objectives have already been formulated. So the charting of the company's future direction has already been completed, and we're here today to take the strategic objectives to the next level, which is crafting functional unit actions. So for the functional unit actions formulation, the task is to split into the mini teams. So you could keep the same teams that was used to split in the first and second sessions, a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 6 people. Provide each team with A2 paper and a marker. Each team gets to choose 3 or 4 strategic objectives. Depending on how many objectives there are, you want to split the objectives equally across the number of teams that you've split them up into. And in their teams, they should discuss and write down specific actions against each strategy. So each strategy that the team has selected, they have an opportunity to discuss the strategic objective and develop actions that's going to propel, or once you achieve the actions, it's going to mean that you achieve your strategic objective. And if you achieve your strategic objective, that's achieving part of the company objective. Each strategy should entail a minimum of 2 actions and a maximum of 10. So in our experience, we see generally strategic objectives ranging from anything between 2 and 10 actions. Every action must be specific, it must be measurable, it must be achievable, realistic, and time-based. Those are the core principles in StratPlan. So it's going to help the business owner, manager, CEO to put the actions into StratPlan, whereas it is already crafted so an individual knows exactly what is to be delivered. At the end of the session, you're going to nominate one person per team to feed back at a high level the comments and discussion points written down. So this is a way of sharing the actions and the strategic objectives to the wider team at the end of the session. Now, equally important in this session is the use of the information from the earlier session. So the use of information from the celebrating our success, where the bottom half of the paper we wrote down what didn't work well. So teams should have that in front of them, so it gives them ideas of what specific actions could be. Teams should also use the stakeholder power interest matrix to look at some specific actions on how they want to manage specific teams or stakeholders in the business. So for example, if local government has been getting managed really closely by an individual, meaning that you're spending too much of time out with local councils and less time in the office, and collectively as a team, we decided that local councils, they don't have a lot of power and the interest is very low. That means you can keep them informed and shift your meetings to once a month. That means that the individual gets to spend more time in the office, creating value and helping the business propel itself towards its intended direction. So that's just an example of how you can use the information that you captured in the other sessions to craft meaningful actions against strategic objectives. The final session is prioritizing the action. So as all planning and managers and team leaders, etc., know that not all actions can be completed in a given year. Strategy never stops. Strategy, formulation, and strategic planning is a continuous event, and it happens every single year throughout the year. So in order to prioritize these actions, we use codes where 1 equals a current year. So for example, the number 1 equals 2017, and number 2 equals 2018, and number 3 equals 2019. So each member of the team gets to get off his seat, use a marker pen, and against each action, put in what he believes is the priority. So if he believes that it is high priority and it should be done in 2017, he should place a number 1 next to it. If he believes another action is a medium priority, he should place a 2 next to it. And that means that that action will be prioritized for 2018. And if he believes that another action is 3, that means it's less of a priority and it can be prioritized in our instance in 2019. So against each action, the most number of 1s, 2s, and 3s determines the year priority. So by way of an example, let's just say that we had a team that went up and prioritize this action. So the action was implement StratPlan, strategic planning software, to help us monitor and track performance. So if you count the number of people that put 1, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So essentially the number 1 appeared the most times, so that means it's prioritized for 2017. The number 2 was second, so that means that it was prioritized for 2018. And the number 3 appeared less frequently, so it means that it's going to be prioritized for 2019. Therefore, this action should be prioritized for 2017 because it had the most number of votes. If 3 was the most number, it would be prioritized for 2019. If 2 were the most, it would have been prioritized for 2018. So in this case, the most votes was 1, so it's prioritized for 2017. Just remember that all actions must be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based. If it isn't, then it should be prioritized for later in the planning period. So it could be prioritized for 2018 or 2019. Only actions that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based should be prioritized for the first year. To close off your functional unit planning workshop, you leave the team with a motivational quote, which strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. And that's by the famous Sun Tzu in The Art of War. Allow the business owner, manager, CEO, if they are available, to thank the participants for participating in the functional unit strategic planning workshop. And once the functional unit workshop is completed, the facilitator would collate all of the actions and hand it over to the business owner to upload it or insert it into StratPlan. And if that's a task that was agreed with you and the business owner, manager, or CEO, then you would take away the actions and populate it into StratPlan. Once it's populated into StratPlan, that means that the business's complete strategy is complete. Sorry, the entire strategy is complete. So there you have it. This is a masterclass on functional unit strategic planning. I hope you found this session useful. And as ever, subscribe to our channel, and also feel free to send us any emails with any questions at any time. And one of GVC's awesome help team would get back to you straight away. Thank you.